All right, go live here real quick. Okay, so we are kicking off our workshop for this month on unpacking me, you, and us. Another way to think about this is how we go about understanding the three parts in a relationship, right? So a relationship is not simply just you and the other person. It's you, the other person, and you both together. That's really important to recognize. In a relationship, it's not just you and the other person. It's yourself, the other person, and you both together. So we're going to talk about how applying emotional intelligence in a relationship can actually help you better understand and keep your relationship healthy. And this is a workshop series, a part of the EQ crew. I'm also here on TikTok Live. So if you have questions as I go through this workshop content, feel free to ask some of the questions. So what are we going to be talking about today? There's 5 different things. We're going to have an activity as well. The first is, what does it look like to focus on yourself? How do you actually focus on you, right? The second is, how do you focus on the other person? The third is how to focus on the relationship itself, or as I term, the us. And then we're going to talk about the risk involved in when you don't actually focus on yourself in a relationship, or you don't focus on the other person in a relationship, and also the risk of when you don't focus on the relationship itself. And then we're going to have a little activity at the end. So let's get started. When it comes to, your relationships, yourself and the other person, it's really important to acknowledge and take into account what emotions do you experience, right? So let me actually show y'all on the live here. This is a wheel that I use with a lot of my clients for them to better understand the emotions that they experience, to expand their language and stuff. So one of the first questions you want to ask yourself is this: what emotions do you experience most often when you are focused on yourself? I'll repeat that question. What emotion do you experience most often when you are focused on yourself? That's an interesting question, right? A common emotion that I personally experience often when I'm focusing on me is optimism, right? When I think about myself and the goals and the plans that I have, it brings a sense of optimism, within me, right? That's a feeling and emotion that I experience, right? For some of you, it may be, you may feel, euphoric. You may feel excited. On the other hand, you may feel disappointed. You may feel annoyed. You may feel frustrated. You may feel irritated. So it's always important to take into consideration what you are feeling when you focus on yourself, right? The second thing is, what emotions do you experience when you are focusing on someone you spend a lot of time with? So this could be somebody at work, like a manager. This could be someone you are in a relationship with. This could be a family member. Whoever you spend the most time with, I want you to think about, what emotions do you experience most often when you are focused on them, right? So for example, if I was focusing on my manager at work, maybe I experience a lot of nervousness, right? Or maybe I experience a lot of anxiety, right? And that's that's worth unpacking. That's worth exploring. Or maybe on the other hand, right, I experience happiness. I experience playfulness when I think about my manager that I spend a lot of time with at work, right? And then lastly, when you think about you and that person together, right? When you think about yourself and that other person in y'all's dynamic or in the relationship, what emotion do you typically experience when you focus on you both? Now, this is really interesting, right? And I don't think a lot of people spend time reflecting on their emotional experiences, especially in the context of you and the other person being one thing, right? It's often, related to the first two questions I brought up. You often may think about how you feel when you focus on that other person, or how you feel about yourself when you're thinking about yourself, right? But rarely, I think, do we focus on the us component, right? When you think about you and that other person together, what emotions do you often experience? And this is important this is an important reflection to have with yourself, an emotional reflection to have with yourself, because it often will reveal a lot of emotions that may be unspoken, or it may reveal emotions that you often express, but maybe they haven't been heard, right? I recently was in a conversation with a colleague of mine that often shared that with their manager at work, they never shared with them that they felt neglected, right? Or when they think about them and that other person, that manager at work together, they have an emotional experience of neglect. They have an emotional experience of disappointment, of shame, right? And lo and behold, what's going to be the outcome if those emotional experiences aren't often shared or discussed in the context of the relationship? What's going to happen? Shit's going to fall apart. And sure enough, that's what happened. So these are just 3 reflection questions for you to take into consideration as we move through this presentation. So how exactly do you focus on yourself? I like to keep things very simple, right? The first action to take in learning how to focus on yourself is, 1, take inventory of your goals, your wants, and your needs, right? When we say take inventory, that means to create a list. What exactly are your goals for yourself? What do you really want, right? Do you want to make more money? Do you want more friendships? Do you want to have more friends? Do you want to develop more skills? What are your needs, right? Consider your base needs. What base needs are not being met, right? These are things that are really important for you to take inventory of. If you do not take inventory of your goals, your wants, and your needs, there will be a risk associated with that, which I'll get into in just a bit. The next step in focusing on yourself is to take consistent action towards whatever goal you have, right? If my goal is to develop my emotional intelligence, I need to act on that. I can't just talk about it, right? That's halfway to being in action, right? Talking about something. You need to take full, consistent action towards developing your emotional intelligence, attending trainings, right? Having conversations with people about emotional intelligence, right? Doing research, applying it. That's how you can take consistent action towards a goal. The third step in focusing on yourself is to reward yourself for taking action. When you actually do the thing that you set out to do, when you take action towards a goal, make sure to reward yourself, right? Don't forget that you matter, because when you start to forget those things, it comes with risk. When you don't reward yourself for taking action, it can lead to feelings of, not feeling fulfilled, right? May feel like you're always just working for no reason, working towards no end, right? So be sure to reward yourself for striving towards your goals. And lastly, reflect on how you feel about yourself. This is a common theme in therapy, reflecting on how you feel about yourself. I think you don't need to be in therapy to reflect on how you feel about yourself. You should be reflecting on how you feel about yourself every other week, every other month, right? If you're not doing that, start doing that today. Because if you're not doing these things, if you're not focusing on you, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have some risk, right? You're going to run into some risk. So let's talk about that. Not focusing on yourself can lead to the following things. Okay. Not focusing on yourself can lead to the following things. Number one, loss of identity due to inconsistent action. If you ever feel like you don't know yourself, it's because you're not taking consistent action towards something that you want. I'm going to repeat that. If you've ever felt like you don't know yourself, it's because you're not doing enough. You're not taking action towards something that you want, something that you need, or a goal that you have. So, lack of self-care, lack of focus on self leads to a loss of identity. The second risk that you may experience if you don't focus on yourself is you may run into codependent behavior, like relying on someone else for your fulfillment, right? You can only control yourself. You can't control other people. You can try, but you really can't, right? So if you overly rely on your partner for fulfillment, it's going to lead to codependency, meaning this individual is going to have, that other person is going to have a lot of emotional weight in your life that may impact how you go about seeing yourself. That's a risk. You don't want to be experiencing too much codependent behavior. The third thing that can result from you not focusing on yourself is you wind up resenting other people, right? You may wind up being extra envious. You may wind up being jealous of others because you're not focusing on yourself. You may spend excess time looking at others, right? Spending all your time scrolling on social media, involved in other people's lives, looking at what's going on outside of yourself rather than looking at yourself and working on yourself. So resentment is a risk you may experience if you do not focus on yourself. So what's the snapshot of this? Focus on yourself, right? Engage in self-reflection that leads you to taking action towards a consistent goal, reward yourself, and reflect on how you feel about yourself. Let's move forward. Now, the next part in a relationship that you need to be conscious of is focusing on the other person. So your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your partner, your spouse, your manager, right? Relationships are not just, locked in on romantic. Those tend to be the most popular ones, but there are all types of relationships: familial, work, right? Romantic. So this is applicable across the board. So how do you focus on the other person? The first thing you need to focus on is paying attention to their interests, right? If you spend time with someone in a particular relationship, you need to know what they're interested in. If you do not know what they're interested in, it's because you're not paying attention. And if you're not paying attention, it's likely that that's going to impact the relationship. So pay attention to what their interests are. An example of this is in a workplace, right? Your manager, more often than not, is interested in you hitting some goal related to the business, right? That's pretty straightforward. If you're paying attention to what they're interested in terms of the business, right? That's always a common conversation you can have with that person to show that you're interested in them, show that you're focused on them, right? The second thing that shows that you're focused on that other person is to provide them space when they need it. By providing them space when they need it shows that you are actively aware of their needs, right? Wow, isn't that amazing, right? If you can be in a relationship with someone who's actively aware of your needs, right? And providing space is a good example of being conscious of the other person's needs. The third and arguably one of the most important parts of focusing on the other person is to be curious, right? This is the hallmark of social awareness. You want to inquire into their life with meaningful questions. If you are really intentional about the relationship you're in, you are no doubt asking that other person questions about their life. And in particular, meaningful questions, right? Like, when did you realize you wanted to be in this particular role? When did you realize you really cared about this goal? These are some examples of good questions that you can ask someone to show that you care and that you're curious. Now, getting to the interesting piece here, what are the risks of not focusing on the other person? So I'm going to tell you, not focusing on the other person in a relationship can lead to, number one, loss of connection due to a lack of interest in their life. How many friends have stayed in your life that show no interest in it? Zero. The people that don't pay any attention or pay you no mind or show no interest in your life usually don't stay in it. So if you are not focusing on the other person in the relationship, the connection will wane and it's going to dissipate. Okay. The second thing, if you're not focusing on them, this can lead to feelings of neglect. And this can fuel other negative emotions that weaken the relationship and sometimes can lead to infidelity, right? Especially in romantic relationships. When people feel like they're not being heard or they're being neglected, this is going to be a catalyst for driving other negative emotions. And in a work relationship, this leads to people leaving one company and going to another company. I think it's a term I've been hearing lately is quiet quitting. The third risk is that communication breakdowns result in constant conflicts. All right. When you're not focusing on the other person in the relationship, you are more likely to run into constant conflicts. Okay. This is where you know that you're not focusing on someone else is when the constant battles you appear to be in for no apparent reason. You're just in battles with them. And that is a sign that there is something you need to learn about them that you're not learning. That's a sign that the breakdown is leading to a breakdown in the relationship. The communication breakdowns lead to a breakdown in the relationship. All of these three things are the risk involved in not focusing on the other person. Now, let's get to the us in the relationship, right? So again, just to recap, so far we talked about how to focus on yourself, how to focus on the other person, and how now to focus on us, the third part in the relationship, you and the other person as one thing, okay? The first thing you need to do is take inventory of your shared interests and hobbies. What exactly do you have in common with these other people? If you have something in common with them, it's probably best that you spend some time taking inventory of what those things are and engaging in conversation and dialogue on those things. An example of this is even at my 9-to-5 job, I talk to my manager, right? That work relationship that I have with him, we talk about crypto sometimes, right? That's a shared interest, right? Now, I'm not going to spend this time talking about crypto, but I'm going to focus on this presentation and what the key parts are in focusing on us really are. So the second thing is spend time engaging in those things together. So whether you are, having a conversation about it, or whether you're, doing trainings together, going through different experiences, that's what's going to help you build memories. And that's what's going to allow you to focus on us. All right. You're focused on the us in the relationship when you are engaging in memory building. All right. You got to be building memories together. And how can you build more memories together? Well, number one, you can share new experiences, try new food, see new places, listen to new music, share in fun things together. And the fourth and most powerful thing that if you've been following me on TikTok or following me on different social channels, you know that in my relationship, we practice what are called reflection days. And these are absolutely crucial and is a staple in my relationship on how I and my lady focus on us, okay? Engaging in reflection days is where you focus attention strictly on the us in the relationship, especially when things start to drift off course. I'll talk more about reflection days near the end. So, what is the risk of not focusing on us in a relationship? I'm going to show you right here. The risk is you wind up experiencing the end. If you don't focus on us in the relationship, your relationship is going to die out. It will be over. It will be done. Fin, the end. Over. Why? It's because your relationship built up too much risk, right? You're not focusing on yourself too much, or you're not focusing on yourself enough. You're not paying enough attention to them, and you're not giving much attention to you both together. And the buildup of all that risk is going to lead to a relationship being over. And more often than not, most people don't want to necessarily end relationships without some sort of mutual understanding, right? And relationships ending can be avoided if you do all the things that I talked about before, all the how-tos I laid out, how to focus on yourself, how to focus on them, and how to focus on us, you and the other person together. So let's apply emotional intelligence by doing a social awareness activity. A social awareness activity that I highly recommend you and the other person participate in is to take the love language quiz with the person you want to improve your relationship with. A love language quiz, you can find it at, I believe it's lovelanguage.com, the 5 love languages. You want to take this quiz immediately. And why? Having a framework for understanding how you prefer to receive love is really important, no matter whether it's a romantic context, professional context, friend context, family context, don't matter. You should have this awareness because the insights can help you open up new actions to take in your relationships. When you are able to take more or new love-based actions, you increase the probability of having a healthy relationship. That's the goal, right? That's the goal of applying emotional intelligence in your relationship, is to prevent it from becoming toxic, is to ensure that it remains healthy, right? So take the love language quiz. If you're watching this, me on TikTok live or seeing this on YouTube, go on over and take the love language quiz and drop your results in the comments, and I will ask you about some of it. But that's the activity for this workshop today. Take the love language quiz and then share your love language with another person in your life. So think about a relationship you want to focus on, whether it's friend, family, or work. And then you take the love language quiz, share it with that other person, and then have them take it and have them share their results with you and have a quick conversation about your results. This little action can have a transformational impact in your life. I've done it with countless people in my life, and all the people I've done it with in my life, I usually and typically do have positive and healthy relations with them. And then lastly, if you are in a relationship, in particular a romantic relationship, I highly encourage you to engage in a reflection day. This is a social workout that folks in the EQ crew do. The EQ crew is my emotional intelligence membership, where we focus on getting emotionally and socially fit to have a healthy and happy life. So what exactly does a reflection day look like? It's a time where you and your partner set aside 4 to 6 hours where you discuss your personality, your love language, recent emotions that you experience. And during this time, you're actively listening and sharing and responding to them with curiosity so that it's a learning experience. And as you're doing this, and as the time elapses, as you and your partner has gotten chances to share, you're going to apply what actions and learnings that you're going to take from the reflection day and grow from it, right? The whole point of a reflection day is to be preventative in the weakening or destruction of a relationship, right? You're trying to prevent these things from happening, right? So to have a reflection day, when you start to feel like, hey, me and my partner seem to be a little off, right? We seem not to be on the same page. That's a sign that you need to have a reflection day. If you actually go back and watch a lot of my old TikToks, you'll actually see where I talked about this and how impactful it's been in my relationship. I can't speak any more highly of it. So big workout for you. Apply emotional intelligence by having a reflection day, and let's get after it. And so as I wrap up, just a quick note, I do run an emotional intelligence membership where we get trainings like the one I just did every month on how to apply emotional intelligence to be socially and emotionally fit, okay? So that you can live a healthy and happier life. And just to run through some of the benefits of joining the EQ crew, which you can check out in all of my social link bios. We do monthly social emotional webinars. We also have workshops on advanced application of emotional intelligence and personality types. You get in-depth personality assessments that help you better understand yourself and help you have stronger and more expanded self-awareness, which does lead to more confidence. And you get personalized activities and challenges to help you continue your path to growth. If you want to check out the EQ crew, you already know where to go, inmotion.com. That is where folks like you are improving their emotional intelligence to live a healthier and happier life. That concludes this workshop on unpacking me, you, and us. Thanks for joining. Hope you all have a wonderful